Hello and welcome to the premier Nintendo podcast on all of the internet, Super Switch Headz, episode 171. My name is Patrick Knisley.
My name is Matthew Stoner.
My name is David Howe, and ladies and gentlemen, boy oh boy, we have a very special guest joining on today's episode. Emma Brockway has joined the episode once again. How's it going, Emma?
Doing great. It's good to be here.
Awesome. Love to hear it.
That's right. Emma, you are here to talk with us about Xenoblade Chronicles 3, which just came out. We're going to dig into initial impressions of that game. We've got a lot of interesting news. We heard some news about Mario Kart Booster Wave, or the new Mario Kart DLC tracks are coming out. There's been a Pokemon Presents that's been announced, but we won't be able to know much about, but you, listener, might. And then a lot of non-Nintendo interesting news this week, actually. Some Sony rumors, some Microsoft acquisition stuff. We're going to talk about all that kind of stuff and a lot more. But first, how's everybody doing this week?
It's a perfect weekend. Xenoblade Chronicles 3 came out, so...
The weekend was the best part, yeah.
Yeah, I know, yeah. Agreed.
You said this is a first impressions episode, Patrick, but I am under the impression that we all beat the 150-hour campaign over the weekend.
This is accurate. Yep.
Yeah.
Not even if I tried.
Yeah. No pre-release content from Nintendo for us.
No.
But although Nintendo, we are willing and ready to take your download codes.
Yes.
But yeah, that's great. I'm glad you guys have been having fun. I actually played a little bit as well myself.
You played on your stream.
Chronicles. Yeah, I played a little bit on stream, and I gotta tell you, out of all the Xenoblade games that I've started, this one feels the best. So that's good. I don't know. I just like been inside all weekend. Although Patrick, you and I hung out on Friday.
That's right.
That was nice. That was a pretty fun time.
Yeah.
Patrick came over, and I showed him a bunch of Steam Deck tips and tricks.
Yes, it was really great, actually.
Yeah, and I gave you a bunch of emulation. And
yeah, you helped me get
like
my
that.
Steam Deck set up, which has been wonderful.
How'd you guys do? Like do Emu Deck stuff?
First, we did a lot of like kissing on the mouth, and then we did a lot of like Emu Deck and emulation stations.
Like this mouth, the one with where your head's at, or your butt mouth? Sorry,
I don't know. That that's a mouth.
Yeah,
but it's okay. We're working through it. But yeah, no, it was a blast, and it was nice to hang out.
Yeah, for sure. I'll go next then. That was great because I've been kind of hesitant about and been feeling lost on the Steam Deck, and that gave me like a good footing. And now I have some emulation set up that I can play and have been playing, which I'll talk about later. And otherwise, it's been fine. Maybe I'll talk about this later too, but I went to Cidercade here in Austin for the first time, and things are okay. I feel like I've been kind of whiny this summer on the podcast during this segment, and I feel like I'm doing a little bit better. Or not whiny, but like kind of down.
I love this. I love this new non-whiny Patrick. It's
so whiny. No, it's not the right word, but I've been a little bit down and honest about that, I think, in this segment. And I'm feeling a little better.
I took your funk today.
You have it? No?
Yeah. I took it.
You gotta have a balance. Someone has to have it.
Then I will have it next week.
Yeah, exactly. When we kissed on the mouth, Patrick, you transferred it to me, and I'm going to go over to Matt's and
which
transfer
mouth was that?
We all got monkeypox.
What about you, Matt?
Yeah, things are pretty good. All good over here. Yeah, I've just been playing lots of Xenoblade.
Very good. Emma, how was your weekend? Same?
Yeah, I mean, pretty similar. Hung out with some friends, and it was a delicate balance of like, hey, it's great to see you, but I have to go play a game.
That's great stuff.
All in all, pretty good.
Awesome. Well, moving on then, our last episode was about E3 and conventions, and we got a lot of love on the Discord for another summer episode. Who was our guest on that episode? And a little bit of love for the Switch Headz Con idea on the Discord as well, and some other great comments on the Discord. So just a reminder that everybody should come join the Discord server for this podcast. And also, you know, if you're out there listening and you have any thoughts on Xenoblade or anything else we talk about, we'd love to hear from you, and maybe you'll get a shout out on the next episode. And we also appreciate it if our listeners, viewers would, share the podcast and like and subscribe on YouTube.
Yeah, definitely. Even if you listen to us on audio, please check out the YouTube page. Give us a sub. We'd really appreciate that. Also, I just want to personally shout out Record, who's always in our YouTube comments. Followed me on Twitch. Appreciate the follow, Record.
Nice.
And then I also want to give a shout out. Just to say, everyone, shout out to the Discord community. We had our first JRPG meetup about Earthbound this past weekend. We spent an hour and a half talking like a book club. I've never been in a book club, but I would imagine it felt like a book club.
It's very much like that. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
There was a little bit less wine than I was anticipating.
I mean, virtual book clubs are difficult, but if we all get that memo, next time we'll show up with wine.
Yeah. I'll show up with lots of different stuff next time. I'll just do tons of shots.
And during that time, I realized like I'll play multiplayer games with people, but I've never quite experienced such playing a game at the same time, kind of with some organization. And so like some intentional time to like where we talk about our experiences with Earthbound. And I was very surprised to hear like multiple people, including you, David. You said that it was really hard to get into Earthbound, and we've all been struggling to like start it for years.
Mm-hmm.
Mine was kind of the opposite of like, I'm just glad it's a good push to go play that game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because maybe I would have gotten around to it. There's so many good things on like the NSO, but it's a good reason to do it.
Yeah. Well, now we'll see if I actually finish it, because it's there. I am still playing deadline, 15 other games at the moment. So
another reason to join the Discord server, we have a JRPG club, right? And it's going to continue. Is there a decision for that already? What's the next?
Yeah.
Still on Earthbound. I'll keep going for a little bit, but then we'll have to choose the next one.
Got it.
Yeah, this is still very spoiler free, and the next meetup will be spoiler full.
All right,
yeah.
So people
we're also going to pick the next game at the next meeting too. So
there you go. So this is happening, and if that interests you, come join the Discord. And now we'll move into the gaming news and rumors. So first up, the Mario Kart DLC. What is it called? Booster Course.
Pass.
That name, for some reason, I have a hard time with that name.
Because it makes no sense. It's not your fault.
The second wave, the way they are releasing these tracks is in waves. They're of 4 courses each. Is coming out on August 4th. So shortly after this podcast episode releases, you'll be able to play these. 8 courses per time they release, right? Well, let's talk about it. They showed up. They gave us a trailer for these 8 courses. A lot of them are, I think is going to be the case with all these sort of like Mario Kart Tour levels, and also old games, but also Mario Kart Tour levels, right? Like versions. And this time around, though, there's one new track that is coming to the Switch Mario Kart 8 Deluxe first, though it is also going to Mario Kart Tour. I saw in small text, so it was probably designed for that. I don't know. I think there's an interesting speculation to be talk about, like when this decision was made and all that. But maybe
what came first, the chicken or the egg, right? It's one of those things. It's like at this point, they're just making courses and throwing them wherever there's a platform.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I mean, the Sky High Sunday looks awesome.
That's the unique one, right?
That's the new course, Sky High Sunday. It looks like a Fall Guys stage, but it looks
like Kirby's Dream Buffet.
Yeah, exactly. Stage. But it's nice because it's 100% hover mechanics.
Oh,
so you're hovering the entire time in like hover mode.
I didn't know.
Which hasn't been in any of the DLC so far.
Yeah, so far that hasn't been in any. It doesn't seem like any of the other courses in this wave have that. But this one does. It's in anti-grav mode. So that's great to see that it's in there. There's not like a ton. It's not a bunch of like going upside down and all this crazy kind of stuff, but you will be able to at least bump into people and get boosts, and it seems like a pretty quick course, to be honest. But that looks pretty great. I know Calamari Desert from N64 is going to have a mechanic where every lap is different. So I think that second lap you're meant to go inside the train tunnel, like where the train is going. So that's going to add a whole bunch of like kind of cool stuff to that track. And then we're also getting two of my favorite Mario Kart stages of all time with Waluigi Pinball and Mushroom Gorge from the DS and the Wii, respectively. Those are both great courses, and I can't wait to play on those. Those have been courses that I've been wanting to come sooner rather than later to this DLC. So I'm really excited to see that. And this is coming out the day before my birthday, so it's an early birthday present for me.
Oh, happy birthday, David. That's coming up pretty soon.
I was not fishing for that, Patrick.
Happy
We
birthday,
got you
David.
Mario Kart DLC.
Yeah. We did it. We got it.
Worked so hard for it.
I think it's really funny in this trailer. Like, I don't know. The trailer's like 3 minutes long, right? And like, these are 8 tracks. And it's clear to me that, you know, for these waves, they're going to have like these like 6 sort of bare bonesy kind of tracks, and then 1 or 2 that are like more robust. And if you watch this trailer, like, because I watched it twice and noticed it both times, there's so much more time spent on Waluigi Pinball than there is on any of the other tracks. Like some of the other tracks, they'll spend like 5-10 seconds on.
Yeah,
and
like
then,
Mario Circuit 3.
Yeah. And then on Waluigi Pinball, it was like a full like 40 seconds. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because there's a lot more going on, and it's a lot prettier, and there's a lot of. So I'm guessing that's our Ninja Hideaway or whatever, you know, the more interesting with more mechanics and stuff of this wave.
For sure. I mean, and that's just a fan favorite course, right?
Yeah.
So it's really great to get that back, and obviously they're going to spend a little bit more time on that. But you know,
I think that's good, actually.
No, I think it's good too.
Some simple short tracks is nice. Like you know what I mean? Like
some of my favorite ones in regular Mario Kart 8 are like Rainbow Road SNES. You know, like I love that course. It's very simple and it's really fast, but like the competition is fucking cutthroat because of it. You know what I mean? And so it's really fun to play on a course like that. So I'm really looking forward to this drop. And yeah, we'll give our impressions on it next week on the podcast for sure.
The Mario movie, I don't know a lot about this, but apparently it was screened somewhere, right? In like Arizona or something?
Screened in Mesa, Arizona, apparently.
And of course, unsurprisingly, because of that, there are now lots of leaks out there on the internet if you want to go and find out. Supposed leaks, right?
These are
like
4chan leaks. Yeah.
So these could be people that saw it and leaked it, or these could be fake or some mixture of it. So read it, you know, at your own risk, but they're out there. We don't have to dig into it, but maybe one thing we could talk about is screening this movie. Is that typical? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm sure it's been going through test screenings for a while now, honestly, at this point. I mean, movies, you know, this is kind of just how Hollywood works. They do tons and tons of audience test screenings. Everybody,
but you just don't hear about it as much, I guess, right? Because there's not as much hype around. Like, I don't know. You don't hear.
There's whole subreddits for like Marvel movies and Star Wars
the screenings of them and stuff. Yeah.
I mean, a lot of Disney stuff doesn't get test screened, at least in the same way. You know, it's not like they're going to go down to Mesa, Arizona and grab people off the street and bring them in. You know what I mean? Like that. That's how a lot of movies do their test screenings. But yeah,
there was even an audio leak too, right? Like of some of this I saw online. I actually wasn't able to track it down.
Oh, I'm not aware of that. I would be very interested to hear that.
It was. I listened to it. It was like music. I didn't hear any audio. Sorry, I didn't hear any Chris Pratt Mario voices.
That's really what we all want to know.
Yeah.
You didn't hear Donkey Kong going
making some weed joke.
Yeah. I don't like bananas, man. Just weed. Oh, that's not a good Seth Rogen.
Honestly, if you did hear that, I think it probably is just a fake leak.
Yeah,
the music.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, first of all, that was my voice. Yeah. But I mean, this went up on Twitter that there was going to be a Mario screening, a test screening that night. So I think that it very well could have been some opportunist on 4chan saw that and was like, oh, I'm going to wait a couple hours and then post a bunch of fake shit. Because I don't know. But it also seemed pretty realistic. It seemed kind of boring what I read. on the 4chan leak, right? It was like, I way preferred when this thing was going to be like a weird musical, like from those old leaks. So we'll see what it's like. I just can't wait. I just need to see a trailer, man. I need to see a teaser. I need to see some kind of footage from this thing.
Yeah. There's not a lot to say here, but there's going to be a Pokemon Presents on Wednesday that this comes out, 8/3, August 3rd, shortly before our podcast releases. So if you're listening to this, you probably know what's happening, and we can't really discuss it, but we'll discuss it again next week, like the Mario Kart DLC. But presumably we'll learn more about, the upcoming games, and who knows
Hopefully
what
it's
else.
good. I think they're going to drop a lot of little bits leading up to the big Pokemon game in winter or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I'm very excited for this Pokemon Presents, because
Me too.
if they play their cards right with this game, they've, like, just from the little we know about it, they've made a lot of really big claims about this game. And if they even deliver on like a bit of that, this could definitely be the best Pokemon game ever. So I'm very much looking forward to this presentation. Let us know how it was in the comments.
And next up, this has been making the news rounds that Meta or Facebook, whatever you want to call them, that their VR headset, which is now rebranded to Meta as well. The Meta Quest 2 is getting a price increase. It's going up by $100, and that's unusual news historically for, usually gaming gear, tech gear in general goes down in price rather than up. It's been out for a few years now. Meta's not doing very well. Meta's losing money for the first time. Like, I think they had their first year-over-year stock decline. Have you guys heard that they're going to try to really push Facebook now to be more like TikTok and stuff like that? So they're getting desperate, I guess.
I'm so tired, guys. I'm
Yeah.
so tired. I want to go home.
Let's dance.
So it's not, Meta's not doing well, so that could arguably be part of it, but also tech stuff is just harder to get. Chip shortage.
I think surely the way to get the virtual reality business up for them is to increase the price of all of their products. That's surely going to move more of these headsets, right?
Yeah, it's not.
And Patrick, did you already say it's coming with Beat Saber?
I didn't. So I guess that's the only addition, right? Like, it's the exact same hardware. Like, there's no under the hood
I've always wanted to spend $100 for Beat Saber.
upgrades.
Especially a game that you might have already played at a friend's house and it's been out for a long time. Definitely worth $100.
Yeah, but it's only between August and the end of the year of 2022.
That it comes with Beat Saber?
That it comes with Beat Saber, yeah.
Inflation is the thing, so that's part of it, and the chip shortage. And there, in a minute, we'll talk about other tech things going up in price too. So it's unusual historically.
I don't think it has nearly as much to do with inflation as it does with just Zuck wanted to do this pivot into the metaverse because he read Snow Crash and thought it would be cool. And it was like, dude, this is not like they've lost billions of dollars doing this transition into Meta and the whole metaverse thing. And it's and not to say that somebody shouldn't do it. I mean, like, there should be a metaverse. There should be a Second Life. There should be, I'm a big fan of virtual reality. I think that it should take off. It's only a matter of time. Just not Facebook, man. Like, nobody trusts Facebook to do this, right? And so it's like, it's clearly showing, people have been leaving Facebook in droves. And I think that this pivot is like a big thing to be like, okay, well, obviously they don't want to be on our platform anymore, so we have to do something else. And it's just like, I don't know, man. It's just not how you build goodwill.
I honestly don't think turning Facebook into TikTok is going to help, because the people still there are like my older friends or my parents' friends that I still talk to.
But that's what they're trying to recapture.
So they know I'm not dead, but like, I don't want to see their TikToks.
Yeah. I mean, Instagram has basically turned into TikTok, and it's got like massive outcry about that, right? Like, like all the biggest Instagram accounts are posting, all the Kardashians are posting like, make Instagram again. It's like nobody wants, there's a platform for TikTok already. It's called TikTok, right? And it's like, making everything that is not going to solve your problems. Anyway, this is...
Do something new and innovative, not just trying to reel people back in.
Yeah.
by giving them something they already have.
This may allow PlayStation to be the sort of more affordable VR entry point, but not really, because you'd have to buy a PS5 still, so it's not any cheaper. And it's a lot more expensive. And there's been some rumors that maybe the PS5 could go up in price that as well, because Sony has actually been raising some of prices for some of its electronic products recently too, which again is this situation we're in. And not to be all doomsday, but I don't, this might not be like as uncommon in the future as, or, we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
But like, this kind of stuff might just be more expensive.
You know what the difference is between Sony raising the price of PS5s and Meta raising the price of Quests?
What is
I
the
can
difference?
go out and find a Meta Quest on the shelves right now. I can't do that with a PS5. So
Right.
people will pay
The
$600
demand is
for
there.
it if they need to. No one's going to do that for a Meta Quest.
That's fair. Like it was the affordable entry point, but that has maybe been shot in the foot now. Yeah.
Yeah.
So while we're talking about Sony, there's a lot of rumors for Sony here, but Sony is not definitely raising the price of the PS5. To be clear, that's just like a rumor. But they also are not doing this necessarily, but there's been a rumor that they might be interested in trying to acquire Square Enix, which is, I guess, based on, what is it? Like an IDOS, the IDOS founder, somebody I don't know how to say their name, said that Sony is allegedly really interested in acquiring Square Enix Japan, and in particular just the Japanese studios.
Oh, poor IDOS.
That's probably why he's
They
saying
get
it.
pawned off to Embracer Group, and they're like, well, Sony doesn't want us, just our more attractive older brother.
Oh,
So these are rumors. Even I think he said that they were rumors, but yeah. What do y'all think? Do you think that there's anything to this, or do you think and what would this? How would this feel? Would this feel like now every third party is owned by, or every like big third party is owned by a large, platform holder?
yeah. I mean, honestly, I don't know how likely it actually is, but hearing news like that now, I'm just like, oh, I mean, kind of shocking for a second, but not that surprising that they're interested.
Right.
I don't know if they could or would, but the fact that everyone's trying to buy everyone, yeah, I'm sure someone thought
It's
about
happening. Yeah.
I don't think they could. I think it'd be too big of a purchase for Sony. But what do you think
That's
about this,
fair.
Matt?
I don't like it.
Fair enough.
I mean, all these acquisitions and mergers limit consumer choices, and we see things that are happening now, like raised prices and decreased options. It's probably going to happen.
You think so?
Yeah, I can go either way.
I mean, to give it like Sony has gotten some exclusive stuff from Square recently that lends some credence. Not that other platforms don't too, but
But I mean, they always have. Like, Square has always done that, They like having a kind of exclusive thing. And a lot of Square games have been on PlayStation or the platform that made sense, They did some DS games because it worked on DS. But I don't know. I don't know if they'd want to go fully under someone else.
I'll tell you right now, I think the thing that would sting the most, if as a Nintendo fan, I think the thing that would sting the most is losing Team Asano to PlayStation, right? So, because
That would really be
I think
awful.
that they're on a roll now. I feel like Live Alive is like, finally, this was the game that I've wanted Team Asano to make this whole time. Like, I don't really care about Octopath Traveler or Triangle Strategy that much, but like Live Alive really hit it for me, and that's what I want to see more of from them. And so now I feel like they're on this roll, but some of the wind of would be taken out of the sails if there was a Sony buyout of that.
yeah.
Yeah. I have hope that they won't be bought.
There you go.
Just like thinking about this, maybe the thing that Square or other companies in Japan have going for them, that why these companies might not be purchased or allow a purchase is maybe culturally. USA loves money. They're going to take that money and fucking run to the hills with it. And so I was thinking about companies that have purchased Japanese companies, but like Bandai, Namco, and then Sony and Bungie, but that's a Japanese company buying another Japanese company, or Sony
Square
buying
Enix.
Bungie. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
We will see.
I mean, yeah. I mean, Sony is a Japanese company at the end of the day.
Yeah, good point.
you know,
Yeah.
So it's, there's obviously a lot to that. There's a, major part of the company is obviously here in the US, but yeah, we'll see what happens. I hope it doesn't happen.
With regards to more acquisition information, as you all know, Microsoft is trying to acquire Activision Blizzard. And this was really interesting. Matthew, you shared this with us over on Resetera. User IDAS, I don't know how to pronounce it, IDAS, did this analysis because apparently in Brazil, because as part of this acquisition, they need legal okay from various regulating bodies in different countries, but the Brazilian process is apparently very transparent, and so all this stuff is available to look through, and this person looked through it, and one of the things they do is they ask questions of other companies, right? Like, will this, there's a bunch of like questions that they ask other industry players to try to figure out if this is, going to be a monopoly, sort of, I guess. It's really fascinating, actually. I read through this whole thing. We don't have to go through it all, but if you're out there listening and this is interesting to you, definitely search out this thread on Resetera. But like,
what were some of the highlights?
Yeah, I think before we get kind of to the big one, I think the most interesting thing to me is like your big publishers or developers, your big tech companies. A lot of their information was redacted. Your Amazons, Meta, Google, Apple, all of
Apple,
that. Yeah, hugely redacted, or a lot of it wasn't,
or just didn't
public.
answer.
Yeah, or
they
didn't answer. So what that tells me is they are not going to comment, because what they comment might be used against them in the future if they were to make acquisitions in the future. And maybe the biggest piece is what Sony has said about Call of Duty. In some of these questions, they were asked, does Activision Blizzard King have huge franchises, and do these other companies, can they create something that goes against, is there good competition against games like Call of Duty? And what essentially Sony says is that Take-Two, Ubisoft, and these other huge companies would never be able to create a franchise to rival Call of Duty. And that decision alone, Sony, because Call of Duty affects people's decisions on what hardware to purchase, they were the most adamant to say negative towards this acquisition.
Yeah, Call of Duty and Game Pass. There's some talking about like how Call of Duty is kind of its own thing, and that's a big part of their revenue stream, and also about how Game Pass is like there's nobody that has like a rival for Game Pass, and that it would take years to make one.
All right, well, stop selling yourself short, Sony. You just fucking put out one. You just did it. It might not be as good, but I mean, it's got a lot of fucking games on it, right? Like,
might still take years though.
yeah, for sure. But either way, do you think that would hold water? Do you think that argument would hold water in like U.S. courts?
I don't know, man.
I mean, I get what they're saying, right? And I could definitely see that argument that, yeah, of course, like, but it's also, I don't know, like how much that would affect, like,
I mean, if you're going for anti-monopoly stuff, maybe. Like, if you're really trying to say they have the whole market and we need competition in the market, otherwise things won't innovate, we can't even enter the market, then sure, I think that's somewhat of a good argument. I don't know how likely to win.
Yeah. Maybe that would have held more water before they bought Bungie, but now they're clearly trying to get their own shooter thing going as well, right? Like for themselves. So.
Good point.
It doesn't hold water to me because at least the latest Call of Duty, their Battle Royale Warzone, is cross-platform.
Right.
So this argument that says you're going to buy if Call of Duty was exclusive to Xbox, they're assuming that Microsoft would not make it cross-platform.
I think the difference there, well, maybe not. I was going to say the game is free, right? So it's like microtransactions would go pretty much entirely to them. But I'm sure if microtransactions are bought on a PlayStation platform, PlayStation still gets a kickback from that, right? I don't know. This is another one. We'll just have to see how it plays out. We did a whole episode on how horrible acquisitions are. If you want more of my thoughts on that, listen to that one.
Yeah. Also, just zooming out a little bit, this is interesting. Patrick, I'm glad you find this interesting. Just understanding how governments work. Roughly 20, there's got to be at least 20 regulators in different countries and regions across the world has to approve this in order for this to happen.
Man, that seems like a nightmare.
Yeah.
On top of losing $70 billion.
Right. Like how much money and time is this? Yeah.
So much. So we'll see if it gets through the European Union and the FTC here in the US.
Yeah. And then this next news item, another sort of non-Nintendo big thing, which we can just maybe touch on because I just think it's kind of interesting, is that over at Bloomberg, Jason Schreier has done a big article about Rockstar and Grand Theft Auto and the culture over at Rockstar, how allegedly it is changing and how allegedly Grand Theft Auto 6 is going to somewhat be a product of that change, I guess you could say. It'll have the first female protagonist, which is great. I guess, you know what I mean? Like, of any GTA
and
games.
She's a prostitute.
Yeah. And like, right. But I'm a little like nervous about that. Right. Like, yeah.
No, they said it's going to be like a Bonnie and Clyde sort of.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like husband and wife
better.
situation. Yeah. Which that sounds great. That sounds like a really cool dynamic. Yeah.
Yeah. And it also sounds like, at least allegedly, I mean, according to all this, that the sort of crunch culture and the sort of I don't know what do they call it in this, like the frat boy culture is being cleaned up somewhat. Yeah, and that maybe the tone of the game in terms of like, I don't know, the way it's described of like not punching down by, which is something in comedy that gets talked about a lot of and that sort of thing. So we'll see.
You know what I'm not looking forward to? Because this game is probably not coming out until like 2025 or something still, right? You know what I'm not looking forward to is the next fucking 2 or 3 years of people bitching about how woke
they caved
how woke Grand Theft Auto is now before the game even comes out. People are going to be complaining and bitching and moaning about this. I kind of resent that Jason Schreier did this report at all, to be honest, because I think if they just put the game out, nobody would have cared and nobody would have even probably noticed. But now that he's talked about how it's like, oh, we don't want to punch down anymore. That's all we're going to hear for the next, like, as soon as we see any footage, that's just all the conversation is going to be about,
political. This one's political and the other ones weren't, or whatever. Yeah.
Like, it's like anytime they give like a female character any agency in any piece of media, it's just like the mob comes out and starts trashing it. And I'm so fucking tired of it. Yeah, it's so annoying.
Yeah, but I think you're right. Let a game come out, get some praise, and then do the interview of here's why we did this and why it's a good idea.
Yeah. Jay Schreier gotta break the scoops, dude. he's addicted to it.
I'll just try to do this next one real quick because it's not really super relevant to us, I don't think. But I thought this was just interesting that over the past week there was like some near footage that like got released on Reddit that looked like it was allegedly from some secret room. And I guess it just kind of set the community off because there's not modding tools that allow for that and that sort of thing. And so people were wondering if this was the last secret in the game and that sort of thing. And it turns out it is just modders. So that was maybe a little, and then people started to speculate that this was some marketing stunt for like, I don't know, a new game or DLC or who knows what. But then that gained some traction. Turns out it's just modders who have created new modding tools for the game, but it was kind of a fun gaming mystery for a few days that I did not closely follow, but saw news reports about and thought was interesting.
Yeah.
So
sometimes we need a game mystery.
yeah, we do need a good game mystery, I think, every once in a while.
It's nice to have surprises on the internet sometimes.
We'll close out our news section with just some of the maybe more news-oriented stuff that's happened around Xenoblade Chronicles 3 in terms of like it's reviewing super well, actually.
Yeah.
For
Is that 89 on Metacritic? Is that right?
the last time I checked, let me see if it's changed. It's still at 89, probably should be there.
That's great.
That's high.
Honestly.
That's Game of the Year numbers right there. Or at least nomination contender, right?
Super high, also like topping eShop charts. Again, just indication that it's doing really well. And then the other little interesting news thing that over the course of the past week, and I'm sure this will come up some in the main topic as well. We don't have to dig into it here unless there's anything y'all want to point out that they have been putting out. Nintendo's been putting out the as part of their Ask the Developer series, which they do for games sometimes. They did 3 parts with sort of Q&A with the developers for the Xenoblade game, or for this game in particular, rather. So there's a lot of information in there if you want to go check that out. Is there any, Emma, you want to hit us with any big things from that?
Yeah, I mean, those interviews are great, and I am going to bring up some of that stuff later because they talk just a lot about choices they made and, art style, music, stuff like that. So if you're interested, go read them.
Okay, cool. Well, we'll touch on it later then.
Anytime Nintendo kind of lifts the curtain a little bit on the development process, I'm very excited to look
and
into
it was,
stuff.
main director, person from Nintendo, kind of talking about how that conversation happens. So really, really good.
Great stuff.
Nice. Well, we're going to dig in to Xenoblade Chronicles 3 when we come back after this short break. All right, we are back, and this week we are talking about Xenoblade Chronicles 3, just released this past Friday. So we're going to be, like we said at the beginning, giving early impressions because this is a big one, as the reviews and all that indicate this game is really big.
It's gonna take a while. I mean, just judging based on like the second one, I'm gonna sink hours, like hundreds of hours into this game.
So full disclosure, I have not played this game. I intended to before we recorded, but I was knowing I relied on the knowledge that Matthew and Emma would give it a good go, and David also tried it out. So
I played it too.
I will not talk a lot. I will just ask a few questions here and there. And so yeah, for those of you that have played it, what are your initial, like, what's the big picture? How are we feeling?
They've enhanced almost everything. Tons of quality of life enhancements from UI. I think UI is the biggest enhancement for me. It makes things easier. They got some pizzazz to the UI, some cool fade in and out animations as you go deeper in the menus, and also great tutorial systems that walk you through the different battle mechanics 6-7 hours into the game.
Yeah. I mean,
they're really stringing it.
Hand holding, but yes.
Yeah, it's definitely like press this menu button. I said press this menu
one.
button. Yeah.
Did you think this is...
They had huge criticism in the last game for not having good tutorials, so they listened.
They took the note. Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Is if
it
feels like they took that note. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're easy to go back to, easy to reread, everything that they needed to be.
That's part of the reason that I actually wanted to give this game a chance, is because everything I've been hearing is that like all the complaints that people had, they actually took the time to address. They've actually been really paying attention. And is it just me, or is like the font size a little bit bigger, which is good for handheld mode? Maybe it's just me, but it's like little stuff like that. You know what I mean? That like you probably wouldn't notice. They've taken a lot of that into account.
No, I want to check side by side like all 3 games and their subtitle text. Because they all have the in-game like subtitles, so when a character is speaking, you can read it right there.
Yeah, but just like menus and stuff feel like easier to navigate in handheld mode and stuff like that.
I mean, I was curious to see how they would do that because they seem to go over the top with everything. So battle mechanics, buttons you can press. They use all of them. There's a million things.
Seriously,
so
there's so many buttons
matters.
all the time. There's so many buttons.
So many menus.
Listen,
buttons,
the
things.
UI is great. The battle UI is atrocious. It's so busy.
really?
I love it, but it's like
It is super busy.
there's so many icons. They all mean something.
I will say that since there's so many icons on screen, they really did try to streamline and simplify them. So it's just like a red square where all you see is a red outline. It's not big and blocky in a way that would just block everything. It's still all over the screen.
Yeah. Going back to tutorials just a little bit, they don't do it perfectly, but anytime there's a new mechanic, it is woven into the story somewhat. So
Yeah.
it feels connected when you're learning a new mechanic or learning some brand new button press or some new form. It is connected to the story. So it doesn't feel like you're thrusted out of this out of the world. You're still immersed somewhat in it. And I appreciated those small things.
The game design is great that way because they drop little bits. At the beginning,
Right.
your menu is pretty limited. You can only
Right.
do a few things in battle. But as you go, like you said, some party member or someone you'll run into is like, hey, why haven't y'all tried doing this? Oh. Or like, hey, have you guys thought about trying to team up together and do like a group attack, And
Right.
then it's like, hey, tutorial, why don't you try doing this? And
Yeah.
press this button.
Mhm. And it's a good blend, it seems. And I've only really played chapter 1, but it's like,
I'm not out of the tutorials yet, I don't think.
yeah, for sure. But it's like there's some stuff that you can do before you reach the tutorial, and then there's some stuff that they gate that they don't allow you to do that you don't even know exists until they teach you about it, right? And so it's like, so it's not like all of it is just like, here's one thing, here's another thing. Some of the stuff you figure out on your own, and then by the time you get to the tutorial, it's just like kind of hammering in your suspicions
Speed
that you had
pressing.
about what it was. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Totally. I think in like the second one, there was still a new thing you could do that was tutorialized in chapter 7 or something. Like, I expect that as you go, it's just gonna be like, okay, there's gotta be something we don't know. And
Mhm.
Xenoblade's great at that. I don't think I have all of the battle unlocked yet. Not by far.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I would love to ask y'all's question about this because I have read some reviews and stuff, and one of the things that I've seen lifted up as one of the best things about this game is the characters, and that is one of the major highlights. Has that been y'all's experience thus far?
So many feelings in every cutscene.
Yeah.
All of them. I mean, the heart-wrenching story is amazing, but they some of the developer interview stuff, they really wanted to go with a cast of characters. So not just main protagonist sword boy goes on adventure. They wanted it to be equal lines spoken by as much of the party as they could. So the characters are great because they're all fully fleshed. It's not just like, hey, why is this girl tagging along? It's like, no, this girl has opinions and thoughts and some backstory I don't know yet.
Right. It's like an ensemble piece.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, every character will have backstory cutscenes. So typically, you might get these backstory cutscenes from like Shulk from Xenoblade Chronicles, the first one. But in this one, you got backstory and cutscenes about what their lives was like before the events of this game. It's really cool.
Yeah. I mean, to kind of lead that into other stuff, the character design I really like.
It's the best in the series, right? Like by far. Yeah.
They've gone in different directions, and one was a little more limited just because of hardware and everything. 2, they went kind of more anime in a way that some people loved, some people hated. So I think they went with a nice middle ground between the two. You still get a lot of anime influences, but it's much more toned down. And you see it more in just like stylized lines and their eyes and their eyebrows poking through their hair.
Yeah. I watched the Digital Foundry breakdown of this game, and they talked about it was something I didn't even really notice at first, but then I realized their bodies are like actually proportional and like look like realistic now. You know what I mean? It was like something about it before, like especially when it came down to like how there's so much walking around, running around in this game. And a lot of the other games, you had these like big cartoonish feet that would like slide as you walk and all this stuff. And so it's like the actual collision like looks better and feels better to play with more proportional characters. And and I just think they found this great, I think they finally like got it down, right? Because it's like there was something about it that was just always not quite right. Like even in like Xenoblade Chronicles like X for the Wii U, it's like that game I think visually is one of the best looking games up until this one. But even then, like they had really strange eyes, and like it just didn't. I didn't find any of the characters like good to look at, right? But it's like on this one they've kind of subdued it a little bit, right?
One thing that I think is going to be interesting to look at later in the story too, they seem to have put a lot of detail into the eyes of characters. So whereas some of the facial structures are pretty simple, but each of their eyes is individually painted and they move like really well, which, I mean, when you talk about emotional growth, I think that's something that you can really connect to in a person. And eyes end up being relevant to story anyway, so they're really pretty and you see them a lot.
Well, you're kind of hinting at the story multiple times there. So what is the story that we're given pretty early on? Give us a summary or any thoughts on it, or any explication on the story?
It goes straight towards the tragedy. It starts with an endless war between two warring nations, and life is very short.
They're essentially produced as clones at age 10, and they have 10 years to live until age 20. And that's just how they thought life was up until, dramatic story starts and some wrenches get thrown in that. And then still trying to figure out what all's actually going on.
Yeah.
But I think
I got pretty sucked in. I honestly was like not expecting to be totally gripped by the story right away, but it was like I was very impressed by the way that they told the story, and I think the use of flashbacks helps a lot as well. And just I'm very impressed with the story so far.
I am too, to the point where it's hard to put down, and I knew I was going to love this game, but I think it's great to get it and just be like, okay, wow. I knew the little bit we learned from the trailer. I have some ideas based on spoilers from other things. But in general, there's just so much where it's like, I want to figure out what's going on. I want to know why that person's attacking that person. How do I figure that out? What quest do I need to go on to do that?
I also read, I think Nintendo put out a tweet or a comment or something that said that this game is the world of this game is 5 times as large as the world of Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Does it feel that way so far to y'all?
Huge. So the first chapter area is still pretty linear. They're still kind of tutorializing you. There's only really a couple ways to go. And then once you get to the second map area, it's big. And I don't even know how many map areas they're going to be. So it's not fully open world. There are still loading transitions between some of the major chunks of land. But it's all connected. And the chunks that they give you are much bigger than the chunks we got in the previous game.
Yeah, and those player choices about where you go in the world are also, they feel connected to the story because the characters are talking to each other about traversing this world and how they get there in the most efficient way. And they're creating strategy, whether they want to go this particular way to, fight these certain type of characters or fight some of the human characters. And their conversations they often feel like they're informing me, the player's choices about which way I want to go in this giant world.
Totally. I think as to the size thing too, the premise of this game is that there's kind of things from, trying to be not spoiler here, things kind of collided. It's almost like this landmass doesn't make sense. You'll see desert next to some other mountain thing, and it looks like everything just kind of piled on top of each other. And that's something that we can speculate about from prior story, but we also have no clue the actual reasons. But it's really cool to start getting into these open world areas and be like, wait, this kind of tree and area, that's from, I recognize that. And it was never next to this. And like, there's exploring is really different in this one because I feel like a lot of the stuff I have seen before, but I'm seeing it in a totally new way.
So it's like little bits of like environmental storytelling mixed in with the actual literal cutscenes and everything like that.
Or even like that mountain you see in the distance. That's like such an open world trope of like, you see that big mountain and you want to get towards it. But in this game, you see that big mountain and you're like, wait, holy shit, why is that one there?
Interesting.
And maybe just to answer the question that you, listener, that you're thinking about, do I need to play the other Xenoblades before I play Xenoblade Chronicles 3? The answer is no. This feels like a great, it's a great game. However, if you want to play the other two Xenoblade Chronicles game, you're going to appreciate some of the environmental storytelling that this game provides.
There's so many little Easter eggs so far, and you definitely don't need to have played the other ones. It's going to tell you everything you need to know. But, ooh boy, if you play this one first, come back to it in 400 hours, please.
Yeah, that's the thing for me. I mean, I don't even know if I'm going to really stick with this game. I really just wanted to play it so I had something
absolutely.
to talk about on the episode. But it's like, I'm not going to play. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to play a 100-hour RPG just by itself. You know what I mean? So it's like,
That's
for
totally
me,
fair.
it's like, I'm like, okay, if I miss a couple like fun little, points to the other games, I'll just learn that from somebody later. You know what I mean? Like, so that kind of comes down to a personal choice, right?
I agree.
On like how important that is to you. But
I think it's just so fun, though, that they're catering to both of those audiences. They've made an amazing standalone game that is going to have all those Easter eggs. For the fan base that has, been waiting for this game, it's so cool to have that and it not be front and center. It's just the environmental storytelling so far.
Right.
Yeah, I was watching a Good Vibes Gaming did a kind of retrospective on the whole Xeno series, right? From like Xenogears to Xenosaga and then Xenoblade and all that stuff. And he was talking about how when Xenogears came out, it did the Star Wars thing where it was like you finish the game and it's like, this was episode 5 or something, right? And there was like all these other things they had planned, right? And so it's like, it makes me think that even some of those games are all kind of tied in one way or another.
What about, like, we've talked about the world and the characters. What about sort of the art, like in the graphics? And, these games have been so big and so massive that sometimes that's, caused some trade-offs. How does this game look and feel in that department?
I think, like we said, of character design, I love the art choices. I think, the character portrait choices are amazing because you do get some like more painterly stuff. They really tried to go with like hand-drawn images translated into CG and 3D models. But I think world design-wise, it's a lot like, too. Just better graphics when they could.
Feels about the same kind of then?
I
when
think
you're
the
running
rendering
around?
distance is better. Like,
draw
things
distance
definitely look better. There's definitely still some quirks to it. It's a Switch game, grass loading. Of course, you're going to see like where it's loading in.
It's definitely technically more impressive, but you're right, Emma. You can feel that you're playing this on a Switch, on like a mobile processor, right? Like, but it, and I think that this looks sharper in handheld than a lot of the other games did. But it's obviously still going to look better on a TV. Than it does in handheld.
I actually haven't played it not on my TV very much, so I'll need to switch around and see how it looks there.
The environments are beautiful. Just seeing these big worlds, it does make me want to see them rendered in 4K or a higher resolution. If or whenever we get a Switch Pro that can render those resolutions, just because this world was so big and there's so much density to some parts. And especially seeing some of the characters. There was I'm going to play this on my Switch, but I almost wanted to play this on emulation so that I could play it at a high resolution.
Yeah.
I think so much of what they've tried to do, though, is make a game for Switch that runs as best possible. So in some ways, I really like the system for what it is. And also just like their multiple button thing works really well on a Switch because they're making you use like the D-pad buttons and the A, B, Y, X buttons. We haven't quite gotten into battle yet, but oh boy, you use all the buttons. Before we do that though, I do want to bring up music.
Yeah.
Because that kind of goes along with just the style of it all. And Xenoblade has been great at music. They really get that emotional quality from a lot of things where you're just like, this sounds either really sweet or really epic or whatever it needs to be. But for this one, so something else they mentioned in the developer interviews, they really wanted to have a musical component that was story relevant. And if y'all have seen any of the promotional art, the two main characters of the main characters, all of them, ensemble, have 2 flutes. To make this music, they built 2 flutes tuned to different scales. and used those real flutes to make all of the music.
Mm-hmm.
Noah and Mio's flutes are real. Like, they're really thinking that way.
Yeah.
It's just so cool.
And that's how we send souls to heaven.
Yes.
Yeah.
We hire we hire Offseer, and then
Mm-hmm.
that's how it works.
Yeah, so I know that y'all talk about Xenoblade music prior to this game a lot and how great it is. So far, is this feeling on par?
I've never been a big Xenoblade fan. I've tried all the games, but what I always have been a fan of is the Xenoblade music. Right, I'm a big Yasunori Mitsuda fan, and it's not just him; it's a whole team of composers that write this music for this game. So far, this surpasses all previous Xenoblade Chronicles soundtracks to me. Like the raw like musicality of it, and then like you were saying, Emma, the fact that it's built into the story, right, in such a way, and built not only into the story but into like the characters like yearning for something more.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's like it's their job to kind of Mio and what's his Noah. It's their job to like see people into the afterlife. And so because of that, they're like more likely to question if what they're doing is really the right thing to do. Right. And so I think that actually like that comes through in the themes for those two characters. And then, and like you said, whenever the two flutes like play together, it's gorgeous.
So they each have two different flute themes in different scales. So in all of the other music and cutscenes and things, if you hear the deeper flute, it's usually always going to be one nation's group. If you hear the higher flute, it's the other, because they're just weaving that all together. And apparently there's like 140 music tracks.
Yeah, sometimes I'm in regular battles that are really simple, and suddenly there's thrust into this like super intense battle music that's not a boss, it's not a special
it's like
battle.
a rabbit.
Yeah, it's just like a fucking rabbit, and it's like this intensity. I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm in. I'm fucking love this shit.
Yeah,
so here for it.
Yeah, they really need to. I think they said that they're releasing the soundtrack, but there's been no official word of that yet. But I think the composers are saying that they're trying to get.
I'm sure they would.
A release.
But it's 140 tracks.
It's okay. Just buy a 10 vinyl set.
They know their audience. It would probably work out well.
They'll do it. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's get into that gameplay then. What did you want to say about, the gameplay that's unique to this, or maybe comparisons with some of the previous ones, or anything else?
So I think just before we get into what's new about this one, Xenoblade Battle is totally different from a lot of games I've ever played. It's kind of more action RPG because it is real time, you're pressing buttons, but all of the characters, it's not really. All the characters are basically auto-attacking, and then you get to tell them to do something more complex on top of that. But that comes in the form of arts, which in the first game, was one thing. In the second game was the second thing. And in this third game, they took all of that and mashed it together.
Nice. Yeah. So I've heard it compared to single player MMO, this style, right? Of like with auto attacks and
press
so
a
on
skill,
and so forth.
and then you do that skill.
And recharging abilities after you use them.
Mhm.
Yeah. Like timers.
And positioning and that sort of thing too.
So recharging is interesting because Xenoblade 1 was time-based. Xenoblade 2 was mostly attack-based. So your auto attacks would refill your gauge. And then in 3, they use both of those mechanics depending on what nation the skill comes from.
I see. That makes sense.
Oh.
Yeah, there's a lot
exactly.
happening.
Yeah.
See, to me, I was just like, oh, okay. Yeah, it's just kind of how it
Sure.
Because it's been a while since I played Xenoblade 1. I played Xenoblade 1 on the Wii, like back in the day. I got, maybe 15 hours in or something, and then I ended up quitting. But it's like, so for me, it was just like, oh yeah, this is how it kind of has always been. And now I'm realizing now that it's like, it had a lot of that too stuff in it as well.
Plus, chapter 1, they give you the simple stuff, and then they're just going to keep loading in like, oh, you can also do this. You can also do this. Have you heard you could do this?
Mm-hmm.
And one of those mechanics are later. They have a class-based system, which is an entire conversation of its own. But one character from one nation can learn arts from the other nation, which means that the arts recharge using the recharging standards from Chronicles 1 or Chronicles 2. Either it recharges over time or recharges based on auto attack. And so
based on your class.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so you're kind of using these two systems all at once.
So fun things that David, you definitely haven't gotten to. I'm not sure how far you're in the game, Matt. But the class system is super cool because you can learn different skills. And similar to a lot of RPG things, if you master different classes, you can take some of those skills and use them in other classes, which basically means something I saw in a bunch of the promotional stuff and didn't understand is you start out with just like UI on one side of the screen with a couple of your arts and like a big, powerful move. And then eventually you get one on the other side too. So you can use moves you learned in the other class and the moves from your class, but you can only equip the ones from the opposite system. So you have one side that's recharging by time and one that's recharging by auto arts.
Whoa.
And so
yeah, I guess that would solve some of the issue that I've had with a lot of the battle stuff, which is just like, I'm just sitting here. You know
that
what I mean?
Is very
like,
much a beginning of Xenoblade problem.
Yeah.
It only gets faster from there.
Yeah.
But with that, you basically have 3 skills that are all lined up next to each other. And then when they're recharged at the same time, you could do something called a fusion art.
Let's go.
So that's one place I'm finding a lot of strategy come in of thinking like, hey, what's going to be good for this class? But also, which ones do I match together? So they're recharging about the same amount of times that I can be using in a convenient way.
Just from like a purely mechanical perspective, so you have your arts assigned to your buttons, your A, B, X, Y, and then you also have your learned arts based on your class on the D-pad, up, down, left, right. But then you also have additional buttons. If you hold down ZL, you can switch between characters. So...
And you can like assign them tasks on what to do in battle.
Yeah,
right?
you can say like, hey, let's focus. But you can also switch all your characters. Like
you can switch all the characters
whenever you want.
And so there are like almost, Emma said this at the beginning, almost every button is used or used twice in some circumstances to do something else.
Mm-hmm. They've really tried
Very
to maximize
MMO-like
as much
then.
as possible.
Very much, yeah. Uh-huh.
You can even press in on the right toggle to move quickly.
Oh, really?
Because why not?
That's funny. Yeah. Well, yeah, they do. Is that new to the game? Is dodging? Is that new? Because
I think so, yeah.
you click in the right stick and you can dodge out of the way of attacks.
Totally new. It used to be very slow walking with your sword out to get around to the other side of the enemy.
Yeah, that just felt immediately like so much smoother and more like tactile immediately.
Absolutely.
Playing this game. Yeah.
Another thing I want to bring up that verges on beginner spoilers, but it's been shown again in every single promotional thing. You also then get like a combined thing your characters can do where you basically become a giant mech.
Very Neon Genesis Evangelion looking.
Very much,
yeah.
Oh, it looks like an Eva. Yeah.
Get in the robot.
Yeah.
But,
the Ouroboros attack is what that's called.
Ouroboros forms.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I don't want to get too much into all of those things, but that's just more different sets of skills that they're going to throw into battles. There's also chain attacks. Like the amount of things you can do in a battle is more than you actually need.
Mm-hmm.
However, I've been playing it on hard, and I'm not going to lie, it really helps to use all the things. Because if you just sit there auto attacking, you're never going to.
Well, that's
another
new addition in this game, right? It's like an easy, medium, and hard mode. Like, was that? I mean, I know they've had some kind of scaling of difficulty before, but I think this is the first time where it's just like easy, medium, and hard, right?
The hard, or maybe just the harder hard, was added as DLC content.
Okay, right.
But then people loved that.
Yeah. So they just built it into the game from the beginning, I guess.
I think so. Although the difficulty of like Bringer of Chaos mode in 2 is way above what it is in this one so far.
Gotcha.
Maybe they'll
so that one had easy, medium, hard, killer hard.
Right.
Which I'm kind of hoping they will maybe add in later because it's really fun as like a new game plus kind of thing. But for now, hard has been fine. I'm definitely noticing that bosses are getting harder.
Mm-hmm.
What are the combat or other gameplay like comparisons you can make? I've heard some people talk about I think it was you even, Emma, talking about the cliffs, like, in Xenoblade 2, sometimes I would find myself falling in battle
So,
and then dying and being frustrated by
I've done
that.
And you can still do that because that's fun. But I mean, there's little quality of life things that have definitely been added in with the movement systems, similar to pressing in the R stick. Like moving around the battlefield feels easier. Even with 6 people there, you know where you are and what you're doing. And before, like, sure, if you're just standing there, you're going to auto attack. But all of the arts will move you around a little bit. They're more extreme kind of things. And then it might position you in a weird spot when you're done with it. So you might find yourself like edging toward a weird cliff or a weird place your camera wasn't happy. But in general, I haven't had any arts push me off a cliff. Items also don't fall off a cliff. Like the item drops will never go off a cliff anymore. So there's some boundary they've put in.
Got it.
But you can still fall right off it. And it sounds like enemies can still knock you off it.
I have a question about fucking items because I'm walking around and there are so many goddamn little shinies everywhere. Yeah. Do I need to pick up all of those?
Not all of them, but probably a lot of them.
Just takes so long to go run around and grab all of them.
One thing about collection, especially for bigger maps, is it's one reason for me to unlock every area of the map. It's just like, oh, hey, I haven't been over there yet. I'll go towards that blue dot. I'll go towards that item. It just gives you kind of another goal. But the items, I guess that's a really good point. I think how you chronicle and unlock quest stuff is way better right now. So in the first game, there was a collectopedia that you never really knew when you needed to go and fill out. And quests, weren't always super clear. Here, they've really condensed item collection into one of two things. It's either, collecting stuff for people, and all those quests are put together in like a collection card system.
Yeah.
Or I guess a couple different things. Cooking. There's a few things you can use for cooking later, and gem crafting. So your collectopedia in a lot of ways is, I need that one thing to build this. Where do I find it?
I like to refer to all of these things as cooking. You got cooking, gem cooking, and class cooking, aka leveling up. It's all cooking to me.
Cooking.
It's cooking, top to bottom, all the way down.
Definitely cooking.
No, apologies for interrupting.
No, I mean, that was pretty much it.
You're forgiven.
But I think they have done really well just simplifying quests. I feel like I'm not getting quests out the wazoo. They're very story-oriented when I get them. And the rest of stuff is just like, I'll just collect all this stuff and it'll be probably useful later.
Gotcha.
Less fetch quests by far.
Yeah, and those first couple quests that you get actually ask you to use the UI to figure out what it means and how to open it or close it or expand or minimize it, and how to click it to make it your main quest.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool.
I think another thing we haven't really hit on that's different between the games but also related to battle stuff is before we had the main cast of characters and random other characters. Like in the second, there was a ton of different blades or, characters you could run into. Way too many to actually bond with. In this game, there are things called heroes that are important quest lines that are story related for the most part that kind of seem to fill that role. And I really like them because you get emotional quests that are just kind of side quests, but you can then kind of gain classes from those hero characters. So your 6 people will never change, but they're constantly learning from all these people.
Just like
and that feels like a good balance of that system.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's better than like a lot of other.
One.
Oh, sorry. Can you say that again?
So you can equip one. You have your 6 main characters, and you get a 7th kind of guest character. And the 6 main ones will never change, but that last character you can toggle in and out.
Yeah, I think that kind of works a little bit better too, keeping the core group around rather than like a lot of other RPGs where you grow really attached to somebody and then they're just gone. You know what I mean? Or all of a sudden you get a new guy and you got to level him up from 1 all the way up to where you're at with everybody. You know what I mean? So it's like having this kind of rotating guest cast makes a lot of sense just from a that's just a gripe that people have with a lot of RPGs, right?
Yeah, and I'm not 100% sure yet, but it sounds like your hero character comes in as your median character level.
Oh, okay, cool.
I
Right.
haven't had any discrepancies of what level they enter at based on where my party is,
Nice.
which is great if that's the case, because I don't want to level all my heroes. I just want them to
Yeah.
also be on my team.
I haven't quite yet got a hero. But
Yeah.
I know that they exist because I watched the goddamn trailers.
Yeah, I'm
so
trying
we're
to
good.
only say things that were like told in trailers that are more
Yeah.
mechanics, not so much story. But they will come. So are you in like chapter 2, Matt?
Yeah, I'm in chapter 2. Yeah.
They will come.
Are th-
I just
there
fought
any-
the first big boss, and I know he's a boss because he calls himself a boss. Also, I think there's a reference to Castlevania Symphony of the Night when they say "Have at you."
Probably. Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, let's talk about that. Let's talk about that real quick. We've been talking about combat for a while. Let's just talk about like how good the voice acting is in this,
Oh,
right? Because these games have had voice acting for all of them, even back in the Wii, right? But it's always been this kind of like weird, stilted British shit that they did. And I think the reason that they're British to begin with is because this was never meant to be localized for the US. This was
Yeah.
only going to have a European release originally, so they hired all British actors. But they've stuck with that for this world, which I think is fine and good. But it's always felt a little weird. And even in 2, like listening to some of the dialogue in 2 feels a little weird and the voice acting is not that great. But I've been like totally bought into all the characters so far that I've met in this game.
absolutely.
And it's like the audio production sounds really good. And it's just, I don't know, man. It's like, I feel like it's probably the same audio engineers that have been recording all of these games, and they're just getting really good at it at this point. You know what I mean?
That's
Like
possible.
not only like recording the audio quality better, but also directing the actors and getting what they
Mhm.
need out of them and everything like that. But yeah, very impressed. I can't imagine playing this game in Japanese, just because I love the English voice actors
It's
so
so
much.
good.
Yeah.
And there's voice acting everywhere, even in
Yeah.
little text boxes that aren't cutscenes, they just pop up. Sometimes you'll have straight up voice acting.
Mhm.
It's
Sometimes
everywhere.
not though. There's definitely a lot
Sometimes
of
not.
just reading. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which when I was streaming gave me an opportunity to practice my British accent.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
I mean, some of it too is I think as time has gone on, they might also be able to hire better actors, or
Yeah.
their actors originally have been acting for a decade now.
Yeah, they're
Like,
better. Everybody's better. Yeah.
They have a character who was basically on Doctor Who and then is
Mhm.
back. So they've got some people that have been acting for a while. I mean, the
I-
Britishness is quaint in a lot of ways. And I don't know enough about different British accents, but like in 2, you just had a character who randomly was Welsh. And it's like,
Yeah.
I'm not sure why, but this is great.
And you've got some Cockney in here as well.
Ooh,
and then
yeah.
like there's a couple characters that are very clearly Scottish, and like
Mhm.
it runs the gamut of dialects for sure, which I enjoy.
I like it though.
And they say like in it and like defo.
Oh, yeah. They're not hiding.
Yeah,
where they're
yeah,
from.
yeah. Yeah.
Well, I want to ask this question so that then maybe then we'll have sort of final thoughts that are maybe more positive. But like, are there any criticisms that y'all have, or anything that like, man, I wish they had fixed this, but they keep doing the same thing? Is there any?
The
just
first
out
thing
of
that comes
curiosity?
to mind was a quality of life enhancement. I think they did in Torna. Correct me if I'm wrong, Emma. When some of the attacks like break, you have to attack from the side, and in Torna, the UI would notify you that you're on the side of an enemy. And I don't think
Mhm.
Xenoblade Chronicles 3 from the UI notifies you.
It
Or
does.
does it?
Yeah, it does. It's got the arrows. Right.
It's easy to miss. There's
Okay, I
an
think I
arrow. There's an arrow above your ABYX buttons, all the arts, that'll change directions.
Okay.
If it's pointing up, it's towards the enemy. Down is towards, like, you're at the back of the enemy. And
You're gonna poke
anytime it's
their
pointing
butt.
to the side, you're at the side.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
I did not notice that. Okay.
It's not
Yeah.
as big. Like the first one, you'd see like a exclamation point pop up. It's less in your face. But I think because this battle UI is so a lot already, it's kind of nice that it's more simple.
It's funny though that I feel like what happens then because of that is I'm just staring at that little corner of the screen, seeing where the arrow is instead of looking at the monster that I'm fighting. You know what I mean? So it's definitely not like still a perfect solution, I think. Because there's so much chaos happening, especially with 6 characters running around. Yeah.
So I mean, I don't want to segue too much again, but that leads me into another thing is have y'all played around with different characters and what do y'all like the best? Because I stopped playing attackers for a minute just so I didn't have to think about that, you know? I've been playing a defender and love it.
Yeah, I've been playing, every character just to kind of like learn. If I were to play, I always have a healer in all the JRPGs that I play, and I like playing the healer in this. Yeah. It's important to everything. Any kind of character that has like area of effects is always fun because you do this area of effect, which increases agility or increases attack power. But then the CPU characters move out of the area of effect.
Yeah. Oh, that actually brings up something that gets more at Patrick's question. They totally changed how healing and reviving works because now healing is a dedicated job. Attacker is a job and defender is a job, and the classes fall within one of those 3 things. But now the only people that can revive a character are your healers.
Oh.
So if both your healers die, you're dead. You're not going to win.
It's happened many times.
But it's really interesting. And I'm not sure. At first, I was kind of annoyed by it. I was like, well, I've still got life. I got a character up. They should be able to go and pick that guy up. But the more I've gotten into it, like I really do think it's an interesting change to how battles work.
Yeah, it may not be as shocking once you get used to it or whatever. Like, we'll see.
Yeah.
To be seen.
I've got a complaint that has not been fixed since all of the games. Everybody's always had this complaint about these games, and it's that the battle dialogue is incredibly repetitive.
Oh man, I love it.
It's
Dude.
like,
It
you hear
seems
that?
like
Lance
something-
wants something a bit meatier.
Can you change it in the settings? I guess would be the like question.
You can't?
No,
That's the thing they should allow
I think
for.
in 2 you could turn it off.
Yeah, but you cannot in 3.
You can't like
Really?
affect it.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Yeah.
okay.
It seems
They
like
just
it
say
should-
the same shit over and over and over and over and over and over and over again.
It
Yeah.
should.
Yeah.
It seems like it should be an option, not just to turn it on or off, but to like some sort of like amount, right?
mean,
right,
yeah.
like
Some of
make
it's-
it super rare or
Some of
whatever.
it's helpful, right? Because they'll
Yeah.
see something in the distance and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, they said the thing. That means somebody's nearby that I need to go check out. But when
you're
afterwards
right.
he's like, really? It's over? I was ready to fight another or something like that. And you're like, all right, I've heard you say that like 50 times, dude. Like you
A
don't have to.
million times.
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard you say it 50 times in the last 10 minutes. Is what I heard.
Yeah.
That's definitely, it's got charm, right?
Yeah.
Like there's charm to it, and it's obviously now become like, for better or for worse, a staple of the series, right? But it's like, but you
the
know,
option
people
to scale that back would be
that's
nice.
been a complaint since the very first Xenoblade Chronicles game, and they did not change it in Xenoblade 3 at all. Yeah,
That's crazy to me. But
Yeah,
yeah, that would be
it's
nice
weird
to
that
turn off.
it was an option in 2 and not in 3. Yeah,
Maybe I don't think I'm imagining that.
Hey, that's
But
DLC.
no, I've heard the same thing. Yeah,
2, they did a lot of DLC work too. And again, they took, people's complaints and comments and really kind of tweaked stuff. So, curious
Maybe
to
that'll-
see if they do any of that with 3. Because
Yeah, we
they do
kn-
have DLC planned pretty
Right, maybe.
extensively.
There, we can talk about that, and then maybe some final thoughts as well. Like, so yeah, there's DLC, and maybe they'll take that opportunity to add in some of these things that people want, like a hard mode or some of these options that are missing, like they
Yeah.
did last time. But there's going to be like a really big, chunky, meaty story thing. That's the sort of the biggest
Mhm.
DLC part, similar to Torna, presumably.
Yeah, they said it's going to be pretty big, but we have no idea what. That's going to be the last wave. So that'll be the last DLC thing we get. The first wave is already available, and it's just some costume changes and useful items. The second and third waves are going to be challenge mode and new hero quests. Challenge mode has been exceptional the way they've done it. Like, I loved 2's challenge mode. It's some of the most fun battles. Like, once you finish the story and you've done all the super bosses and you just like want to be the best you can in the hardest setting possible, challenge mode. And usually you get cool stuff from it, like outfits or items and random things. In 2, you could get characters from previous games through challenge mode, and the art they gave for DLC is 3 swords stuck in the ground, the Monado, Pyra's Blade, and now the new one. So I don't know what that means.
But probably.
They might come back. Or be like DLC heroes or something.
Y'all bought in on this DLC? You guys definitely going to pick it up?
I already bought it.
Yeah, I already bought it too.
I don't know if the microphone picked that one up.
Yeah, it did. It sure did.
Stage
Well,
whispers.
Yeah, just on the subject of DLC, that last wave of DLC is coming out by December 31st, 2023. So
It's gonna be a minute.
It's gonna be quite a bit.
Well, it's going to take me 5 years to beat this game.
Yeah, and honestly, by the time I beat this, I'm gonna have spent a lot of time on it. It's good to take a break and then come back for, this big story chunk you'll get later.
Well, let's close it out. What any final thoughts or anything you really wanted to mention that we didn't get to before we move on?
Just final thoughts. This is the best Xenoblade yet. More heart, more story, more feelings. It cranks everything up to a 10, including UI.
It's amazing. It's so good. I'm so bought into it right now. I mean, I'll let you know how I feel in 100 hours, but it's probably going to be the same. The only thing that I have problems with right now is their dang special edition.
Right. I do think it's nice, that Nintendo kind of has a first party RPG series now. Like that's this.
Are Fire Emblem fans getting mad at you right now?
Fuck Fire Emblem. No, I'm just kidding. I've got a Fire Emblem thing.
Or does it not count?
I love them both.
No, I'm just kidding. Excuse me. But I mean, that's a different
it's different
style of game. Like a tactical RPG or a strategy RPG is a bit different, right? But I'm saying this, and this isn't just like a standard RPG either, right? But it's just nice to see that, like, I like that. I think like Nintendo buying Monolith Soft was a good idea, right? And not just because they have been instrumental in making Breath of the Wild the best Zelda game of all time. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that like that's pretty much what everybody says, right? That's what everybody loves about it. Is that wait? Why are you pointing at me? What are you saying?
That's a very good point, though. Is how they're doing the graphics and how they're doing the world is kind of our first look at how Breath of the Wild 2 is going to kind of look.
Oh yeah, yeah.
These are the engines.
Yeah, but Monolith Soft did so much on Breath of the Wild 1, right? And and I think they've the fact that they finished this game so fast and Breath of the Wild 2 has been delayed so much means that probably all of the best talent on this game was put onto Breath of the Wild 2 as soon as they finished production, right? And so it's like, so that gives me, and just playing through the little bit that I've played so far, it gives me so much hope for that game. And, I don't want to just be like, oh, this game's good, so Breath of the Wild 2 could be good. But you know what I'm saying? It's like, but
the little
it gives me hope.
They've improved their draw distance. They've improved all the graphic quality, know, and all on a Switch. So all of this is just going to go into that also.
Exactly. It's just good get on Monolith Soft, Nintendo. That was a very good purchase, and it's nice to see these games, especially like exclusive to a Nintendo platform. It's just nice for Nintendo to have a franchise like this right now.
Mm-hmm.
It adds to their repertoire.
I'm also just excited for all the people that might be seeing all of this advertising and also get into the series.
Yeah. And it feels like the entry point, like y'all talked about, the best one,
Can't wait to see sales numbers on this and see how it actually does.
For sure.
All right. Well, I think that does it then for our discussion on Xenoblade Chronicles 3. If you're out there listening and you're enjoying the game or have anything you want to respond to, anything we said, then please let us know. And we're going to take another short break. And when we come back, we'll talk about the other games that we've been playing recently. Like we talked about, I went over to David's house. He helped me set up my Steam Deck and I have several emulators and things on there now, but I've been spending a little bit of time, not tons, playing the Metroid Prime on Prime Hack.
It's a game changer, right?
Feels great on the Steam Deck. Like we adding in the gyro aiming and obviously the twin stick controls and all that kind of stuff. So I've been playing through that. I'm not super far, but I just been doing that. That's something I've been playing this week. Like I said,
is this your first time playing Prime?
It is actually.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Wait, what a way to do it.
It's definitely, if you've not played Metroid Prime before, either wait for this remake that's probably coming out this year of Metroid Prime 1, or play Prime Hack, which is the emulated version of the Metroid Prime trilogy that gives you twin stick controls. Because it's going back and playing the GameCube version. It's an incredible game for its time, but it just feels so much better to play in this mode.
And then I mentioned I went to Cidercade with my son, and he was really into Cruise and Blast. There, like, it was one of the more accessible games for him, and spent a lot of time playing that. And I was like, well, it's on the Switch. And he was like, really, can we, get it? I want to get it. And I was like, well, before we get it, let's try David's copy. So David, another thank you to you.
Very good.
We tried David's copy, and he was like, I want to get it. So we ended up getting a physical copy because they're on sale, like for significantly cheaper than the. But he's been so excited, and we've been playing that today. So
it's a very silly game.
Yeah, it is very ridiculous. And I think the ridiculousness and the sort of easiness in a way too, right? Like, at least is working really well for him. So that's all he would talk about.
I just like wheeling through the entire course.
Super fun.
So funny.
Was that your first time at Cidercade too, Patrick?
That was my first time there. I've actually played Cruising Blast at other arcades, but and he has too, but we don't know if he remembers. But yeah, Cidercade's pretty cool.
I've never been.
Austin.
Yeah, that's good games.
I mean, a lot of older games.
Pinballs after going to Cidercade, just because it's like the entry is like $15 and
don't they have like two separate Killer Queen?
Have two Killer Queen. So four, I don't know, however you want to think about it, but two Killer Queen setups. Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah. And a lot of retro stuff that, he tried. It's all free, right? Or, you pay the entry fee. I think it's 10.
It's like different times at different times of the day, or different prices at different times.
So like it's kids can go from whenever they open, which I think is 10 a.m. until whatever time it is, and that I think it's $10 entry per person at that time, and then I think you're right that it's 21 and up past whatever time they switch to that, and it might be a higher entry fee.
But you don't have to like put quarters in the machine.
So you pay $10 if you go during the day, and then you can play as much as you want, right? And so that was great because then there's not that like, this game's hard. Like, hey, let me show you Dragon Slayer. You know what I mean? Like, and who cares? Like, you know what I mean?
My favorite arcade when I was a kid was called Tornado Terry's. It was in my hometown, and they did the same thing where you would get a card at the beginning, and then you would slide the card in and out, and then you would just get free play on every machine. And for so long, it was no arcade. I feel like if arcades did that early on, we'd still have arcades everywhere these days. It's just way better. Yeah,
it's great for some of the premium machines, like all the new Stern pinball machines that have like the little animated LCD, like the new Avengers one. I think there's like an AC/DC or something one. But those are typically like $3 at Pinballs in Austin, which is an arcade here in Austin, Texas. I love Cidercade. It's great.
Yeah, I will say it's a trap to get you to buy cider.
Totally.
Because it's not very cheap cider.
I was also like, oh, I'm going to go get a beer. Hang on. And then I was like, oh, they only sell cider. Let's go play some games.
You don't fuck with cider, Patrick?
I don't know.
It's all right. Apples?
I don't love cider. I didn't need one at noon or whatever. You know what I mean? I was like, if it was a beer I really liked, I would have had it at noon, Mm-hmm. I don't know. I'm picky.
Stuff. Yeah, well, I don't know if they've added in multiplayer yet to Cruise and Blast. They said they were going to, like online multiplayer, but once they do, we should definitely play.
Oh yeah, if that's not on there, or if it is on there, then yeah, that'd be fun.
They talked about it. I don't know if they ever actually did. I'll look into it though.
That's me.
For me, it's very short. Other than Xenoblade Chronicles 3, I've been playing an analog game. I've been playing Mexican Train Dominoes a lot lately with some friends. So we've got a bar here in Austin, Long Play. And we just get some drinks and talk and hang out and play dominoes.
Very nice.
That's great.
It's great. I feel like I'm slowly embracing coming into old age.
being an old
Yeah.
man.
Yeah. Fuck
It's
you,
like-
Patrick. Let me say it.
I'm
that's
sorry
fine.
for stealing your old man thunder.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good.
That's
Oh,
cool. You've been playing IRL Clubhouse Games 51 World Wide Classics.
Yeah. Also, yeah, Mexican Train Domino's also known as IRL Clubhouse Games 51 World Classics.
I've been playing quite a few games. First off, I do want to say I beat Sonic Origins story mode. So I finally made my way through Sonic 3 and Knuckles and got the closing cinematic made in-house at Powerhouse Animation in Austin, Texas. And great stuff. I really, really love Sonic Origins. I think if you're a fan of the original Sonic games and you haven't played them in a while, it's a great collection. Just playing them all strung together in story mode itself was really cool. And it's got all the missions and everything. It's a great package. I really enjoy that game. It's getting a lot of criticism online, but that's mostly because the Sonic fan base is totally insane. But yeah, in addition to that, I've been playing other Sonic stuff. I've been playing Sonic and the Fallen Star, that fan game that I've been playing. And there's another one coming out, I think tomorrow, called Sonic Triple Trouble, which is a Sonic Triple Trouble 16-bit, which is a 16-bit remake of a Game Gear exclusive Sonic game that they made. And Sonic fans and their fan games are totally mind-blowing to me all the time. So that stuff is great. What else have I been playing? I've been playing Tori 2. You guys ever heard of that? It's like a weird 3D kind of PlayStation-looking platformer, but it's like kind of like a speedrunning game a little bit. It's 99 cents. It's on the Switch. I got it on my Steam Deck. In fact, it was in the bundles for the itch.io stuff. And that was a game that I kept trying to like brute force to work on my Steam Deck through compatibility layers and stuff. For some reason, I just could not get this itch version of the game to run. And I just got really frustrated one day and I was like, this game's 99 cents. I'm just going to fucking buy it. So I bought it. It's great. It's a fun little game. It's only like 7 levels or something like that. But you play as this cute little burb and you run around on these really colorful stages. And it's just a fun time. I really recommend the Tori games. Tori 3D and Tori 2 are both available on the Switch, and those are definitely worth checking out. They're 99 cents. You should definitely pick them up. And then put a little bit more Stray. I thought I was going to finish Stray on my stream last night, but I didn't quite finish it. I'm real close. I'm tempted to do that tonight, but I might just watch Better Call Saul and edit this podcast instead. But yeah, Stray is such an incredible game. I'm really enjoying that. And then lastly, on the Steam Deck, I've been getting a lot into Wii U emulation. The Steam Deck is the best Wii U of all time. It is an incredible Wii U. It's like the best emulation you can pretty much do on the Steam Deck is Wii U emulation. It's flawless. I've had no issues with any of the games that I've played. And even if you wanted to, you can plug it in to your monitor and have through an HDMI and have your Steam Deck be the gamepad and have your monitor be it's like a perfect, it's like, yeah, it's like a modern Wii U. It's incredible how it works. And like, I've been messing with a few games. Wind Waker HD, I've obviously been playing a little bit of, and I downloaded Bayonetta. So I think I'm finally going to play through Bayonetta. I mean, I have Bayonetta on the Wii U, but in lieu of lugging out my Wii U and playing on the TV, I'd much rather play that portably. I know it's also on the Switch, but I bought it on the Wii U, so I feel like I'm entitled to play it on my Steam Deck. I'm playing the Wii U version anyway, right? I'm not emulating the Switch version. But the game I've really been putting the most time into, gang, is NES Remix Pack. NES Remix is like a great fucking Steam Deck game, right? Because you pick it up and you just play a few minutes here and there of just like a couple challenges. And if you're not familiar with NES Remix, I'll kind of like lay it out. It's basically like, it's like the 8-volt or no, the 9-volt and the 18-volt levels from WarioWare games where they like take old Nintendo games and make little challenges out of them. But they made a whole game out of that, right? And it's all NES games. They're just little bite-sized challenges that you play. There's like 200 or something of them in the first game. And then they also have remix things where they like add new elements into it. Like the original NES Mario will have ice, and so everything's super slippery. Or in Excite Bike, there's a a headlight, and you can only see what's in front of your headlamp, but everything else is black on the screen, right? And so it's like they add all these little things. A balloon fight, like the camera will zoom out a ton, and the scrolling is really crazy, and all this kind of shit. And so it's a really, really cool game. And yeah, it plays great on the Steam Deck. And I'm really enjoying just kind of dipping back into Wii U games, and a lot of these games that I had bought back in the day but never really gave the time of day, actually playing them in a much more convenient form factor has been a blast. So yeah, definitely, Patrick, you should play NES Remix. I think you would really enjoy that. Yeah,
I think I would too.
Yeah.
Hey,
But
another game to start and not finish. Now you can play Xenoblade X.
yeah, that's true. I need to stop starting new 100-hour RPGs. We'll see. But anyway, Emma, what about you? What have you been playing this week?
Since it came out, Xenoblade Chronicles 3. But before that, I was playing some Earthbound, still trying to finish that for the JRPG Club. I'm still every now and then picking up the Fire Emblem Warriors game, Three Hopes. It's been fun in short bursts, but I'm still plodding through. And, now that Xenoblade's out, I don't know. It's going to be that for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, very good. I know Summer's been singing the praises of Fire Emblem Three Hopes. You not as hot on it as Summer?
Good. It's still a Warriors game.
Right.
I think it's a very good Warriors game, but it's still a Warriors game.
Yeah. If it's not your cup of tea, it's not going to turn you around necessarily.
I kind of liked when Warriors was more campy, more not at all tongue-in-cheek. It's just like, this doesn't make any sense. Let's go. But now with this one and with the Zelda one they did recently, they're trying to make the UI look like the other games. They're trying to incorporate mechanics that don't necessarily need to translate from a tactics game to a Muso. For instance, you can give your characters gifts and that raises their morale. But unlike when you use that to teach them in actual Fire Emblem games, it just gives them a boost to attack. This doesn't need to, there's just too much. But it's good. I really like it. I do want to finish it. The story is a little frustrating, but interesting.
Very good. Well, now we've got two different opinions on the game, so now our listeners can make a much more informed buying decision.
Summer has gotten so much farther, so ask them. They know more.
Very good.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Emma. Thank you so much for coming on and talking to us about Xenoblade.
Thanks for having me. It's been really fun to just geek out about this.
I'm excited to have you back in several months until we have a whole dedicated episode about lore.
Spoilers!
Yeah, you guys should definitely do a
yes.
lore episode. Yeah, spoiler.
Bring on me and DCD. We got this.
We'll get you in DCD.
Yeah. I'll meet up with you guys in 5 years when I finish.
Oh yeah.
We'll see you
Or
then.
just sit there and give us first reactions. What?
Well, thanks to MilkyWay.co does our website. Thanks to Corduroy for doing our music. If you're looking for me online, Patrick, IMPDYX.
I'm Matthew on Twitter, MATHYOU.
I'm pretty much everywhere on the internet at Monolith Fiji. And what about you, Emma? Where can people find you online?
I'm Emma Brockway. I'm not on a lot of online things. I'm Emma on our Discord or, various other stuff.
There you go.
Very good. Very good. Take it from Emma. Join the Discord so you can interact with her. And if you'd like to find our show on social media, we are at Switch Headz on Twitter. We are at Super Switch Headz on Instagram and Facebook. We got a website, switchheadz.com. And yeah, we got that Discord. It's going to have a link in the description of this episode. So make sure you join that. We'd love to have you be a part of our communities. So come and join us and talk about it. I'm seeing stuff all the time. Shout out to Ty Typos, who made their first post today on the Discord. Sorry, I'm calling you out. But it's great to see. We're getting new guests all the time, new people on the Discord. It's really, really nice. But other than that, I mean, that's going to do it for this episode on Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Is David actually going to play through a Xenoblade Chronicles game? Probably not, but maybe. Tune in. You got to keep listening to episodes to find out. So you better listen to every single episode of the show that ever comes out after this one. So make sure you find us on those websites and subscribe everywhere. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube so you can see our beautiful faces as we talk. I got something different in the background of every episode of this podcast. You wouldn't know that if you just listened to it. So make sure you subscribe on YouTube and check all that shit out. Folks, we're going to be back next week with another great episode. Not going to talk what it's about. Oh, look, we got a cat cameo as well over in this
hello.
corner.
Only on YouTube.
Only on YouTube,
Yeah.
folks. Make sure you tune in. But that's going to do it, guys. We love you very much. You know the deal. Stay safe out there. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to one another. Be the best person that you can be, without, I don't know, being an asshole about it. But other than that, we love you very much. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.